He was only 32 when death struck him, yet by then he had carved an empire stretching across 3 continents. Some call him a conqueror, others a tyrant, but all agree he was Alexander the Great. How did a boy from Macedonia rise to challenge the greatest empire of his time? This is the story of Alexander, the legend, the man, the tragedy. We begin not with his triumphs, but with a prophecy at his birth. In 356 BC, in the kingdom of Macedonia, a child was born to King Philip II and Queen Olympias. Legends whispered that Zeus himself was his true father. From the moment he entered the world, Alexander was told he was destined for greatness. As a boy, he did the impossible. He tamed a wild, untamable stallion named Persepolis, a horse no grown man could ride. His father, Philip, watched in awe and declared, "My son, you must find a kingdom worthy of you, for Macedonia is too small." His mind was forged by the greatest philosopher of the age, Aristotle, who taught him philosophy, science, and the art of war. But it wasn't just knowledge that shaped him. It was ambition, burning like a fire inside him. Then tragedy struck. His father, Philip, was assassinated. The kingdom teetered on the brink. Many thought the young prince would falter, but they underestimated him. Alexander acted with lightning speed, crushing his rivals, securing the throne, and preparing for war. At just 20 years old, he was king, and his eyes turned east, toward Persia, the greatest empire in the world. At the Battle of Gaugamela, his first major test, he didn't just command from the rear, he led his cavalry straight into the heart of the enemy. He nearly lost his life, but secured a victory that sent shockwaves through the Persian Empire. Next, at Issus, he faced Darius III, the Persian king himself. Against overwhelming odds, Alexander's tactical genius shattered the Persian army. Darius fled, leaving his own family behind. Alexander, in a show of both power and respect, treated them with honor. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was a builder of legends. In Egypt, he was hailed not as an invader, but as a liberator. They crowned him pharaoh and declared him the son of the god Amun. There, on the banks of the Nile, he founded a city that still bears his name today, Alexandria, a future beacon of knowledge and culture. But Persia was not finished. At Gaugamela in 331 BC, Darius gathered the full might of his empire for one final epic confrontation. The battlefield was a sea of men, horses, and scythed chariots. Outnumbered, Alexander used a brilliant, daring strategy to pierce the Persian center and send Darius fleeing once again. The Persian Empire, which had dominated the world for centuries, collapsed. Alexander claimed it as his own. But for a man like Alexander, the world is never big enough. His ambition only grew. He pushed further and further east, into lands his men had only heard of in myths. India, mysterious, vast, and filled with legends of its own. In 326 BC, Alexander crossed the Indus River and faced one of his toughest opponents, King Porus, at the Battle of the Hydaspes. For the first time, his army faced the terrifying might of war elephants, thundering across the battlefield, striking terror into men and horses alike. But Alexander's courage and adaptability turned the chaos into a hard-won victory. Impressed by Porus's bravery, Alexander allowed him to keep his kingdom, a rare act of mercy from a man who usually took everything. But while Alexander's dream of a world empire grew, his men's patience shrank. Exhausted, wounded, and thousands of miles from home, they had reached their limit. They refused to march further. For the first time in his life, Alexander faced a defeat, not from an enemy, but from his own loyal soldiers. Reluctantly, heartbroken, he turned back. The return journey was a nightmare. Crossing the scorching Gedrosian desert, thousands of his soldiers died of thirst and hunger. Alexander shared their suffering, famously refusing a helmet full of precious lauder when his men had none. But the hardship changed him. It darkened his soul. He grew harsher, suspicious, paranoid. Old friends were executed on mere suspicion of betrayal. And then, the cruelest blow of all, Hephaestion, his closest friend, his confidant, his other half, died suddenly. Alexander was shattered. He wept for days, refusing food, lost in a grief so profound he demanded that his friend be worshipped as a god. His sorrow pushed him deeper into despair. He drank heavily, fought recklessly, and his legendary strength began to fail him.
In Babylon, in the year 323 BC, Alexander fell ill with a mysterious fever. Was it poison, or had years of battle, wounds, and relentless ambition finally caught up to him? For days he burned with sickness, unable to speak, his body giving out. His generals, the architects of his victories, gathered around his deathbed, desperate. To whom, they asked, do you leave your empire? With his final breath, he whispered the words that would unleash decades of war. To the strongest.
Soon after, the greatest conqueror of the ancient world was dead. He was only 32.
His empire, built on a single man's will, collapsed almost instantly. His generals, the Diadochi, tore it apart in bloody civil wars. The dream of a united world was gone, replaced by chaos and conflict.
But his legend? His legend was just beginning. Alexander became more than a man. He became a myth. Romans, Persians, and kings for centuries would claim his legacy. Even today, we ask, was he a hero or a tyrant? A visionary who united cultures, or a man consumed by an insatiable thirst for power? Perhaps he was both. A man who dreamed too big for the world he lived in. A conqueror who never lost a battle, yet lost himself in the end. His tomb remains a mystery, his body never definitively found. Some say this is fitting, for legends like Alexander don't rest in graves. They live forever, in our memory, in our history, and in the stories we continue to tell. Alexander the Great's empire lasted barely a generation, but his name echoes through time, over 2,000 years later. The boy who tamed a wild horse, the king who defeated Persia, the conqueror who reached the edge of the known world. He lived fast, he died young, and he became eternal. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through history. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. See you next time.